Hey everybody, welcome back to another action figure unboxing and review, G.I.Joe Classified Edition. And today we're going to be taking a look at Metal Head. Metal Head is a member of Destro's Iron Grenadiers, as you can see right there. Although there is a Cobra connection as well. He came out in the late 80s in the original toy line, 88 or 89, something like that. And he appeared in the DIC cartoon. He had a pretty prominent role too, as I recall. I barely watched the series, but I have heard of his role in it, including the whole bang bang he would say whenever he fired his missiles. I did have a figure as a child, the original one, and I thought it was pretty cool back then. Although I didn't, like I mentioned, I didn't really watch the DIC cartoon. I watched the first 5 episodes, the Operation Dragon Fire miniseries, and decided this is terrible and never watched it again. But like I said, I've heard of the Metal Head parts from other sources. So here we have the deluxe packaging. The new window deluxe packaging. And we've got the artwork of the figure here, Iron Grenadiers. This is number 118 in the line. Larger image of the figure artwork. QR code and the file card info. Legalese on the bottom. And then on the back we have figure photography, including a rocket train with Naugahyde riding it, and explosions going off in the background. And you got a close-up of his shoulder, Tampa, which shows the Destro connection, and then a close-up of his back. And of course you got more legalese on the bottom. As usual for my figure unboxings, I've already opened them, put them through their paces, so to speak. In fact, you can see right here, I took his knife out and put it in the sheath, and when I put him back in the package, I just left it there. I figured it didn't really need to go back into the plastic. Okay, as a deluxe figure, Metal Head comes with a lot of stuff, and thankfully most of it is original. A lot of the times on these deluxe packages, they give you too much reuse. Man, I tell you, these new plastic packages are really, these new trays are really tough to get this stuff out of. They're in there so tight, I'm always worried I'm going to break it. Almost there. See, I'll say again, this is usually why I don't do unboxings, because this takes time. I could do like some people do and just take it off camera and do it, but then I'd have to edit stuff, and that would just make these videos take even longer. So I like to try to do as little post-production as possible. As you can see, we got a ton of missiles and a ton of blast effects. Each missile had its own blast effect. And that goes with each missile. It goes with that particular missile. So as I'm taking these out, I gotta be sure to keep them with the blast effects they're supposed to come with. So it'll be easier to show it later when I'm doing the accessories. Wow, that tray is... that tray was something else. Okay. So here we have Metal Head. Like I said, he's one of Destro's Iron Grenadiers, as you saw in the packaging, but he also works with Cobra. In fact, I think he was, in the comics anyway, he was Destro's spy in the Cobra organization. Like, he joined Cobra, he didn't have that. In the Larry Hama comics, he didn't have that on his shoulder, he was just straight up Cobra. But then he was revealed later on to be a spy for Destro. But then most of us already knew that because the figure had come out and it had Iron Grenadier all over it. He's got a pretty good head sculpt there. He's got that tight teardrop tattoo on his eye. And of course, as you can see, he has removable hair because he has options there. We'll get to those when we get to the accessories. He's also got that Cold Slither logo on his blast shield on his neck, which is kind of cool. And he has 5 X's and 2 slashes there. I don't know what I guess X is supposed to be things destroyed. I don't know what the slashes are for. Maybe things that he damaged, like got away. I don't know. On his back, you see some nice paint work there. Got silver on the part up here and black there, and then some green. I guess that's for the fuel, maybe. To fuel the rockets or whatever. And then he got those red ball joints on his hip. Well, some people saw this and didn't like it, but these 2 pieces here are removable. So you don't have to leave him like that. If you don't want to display him with the hip launchers, you can remove these 2 overlays and leave him with just bare legs. And this is also an overlay. But you have to pop the arms and the head in order to get that one off. And it just says connected to the vest overlay, so it all would come off at once. And then you would just have him in a black and red, like, shirt type thing. And he's got some nice red paint on the lacings on those boots there. All in all, pretty decent looking figure. What you would expect for the price point for a Hasbro G.I.Joe classified figure. Going over articulation. Let's see if I can get his head off without... There we go. He just had the ball joint in the neck there, no hinge. Looks like the hinges are few and far between in this line. But he can get about that far forward. He can go about that far back. You might be able to get... probably not. I think the other head sculpts are equally hindering in the back area. But I don't think he... Yeah, he can't go much further than that anyway, so the hair doesn't really get too much in the way. He can do the Exorcist. I just gotta get the hair out of the way of the neck shield. And he's got all kinds of tilt. Looks pretty good. He does have a butterfly joint, and this one is pretty well cut. Got a lot of movement out of it, I would say. His arm can go all the way around. It can hinge up 90 degrees. He does have a bicep cut. Double jointed pinless arms. He's got the vertical hinge on his right hand and the horizontal on the left. Ab crunch under there most likely, as that's the standard with male classified figures. The vest gets in the way a bit, so he can only crunch forward about that far. Can crunch back about that far. He can twist. He's got some tilt. Drop down hips per usual. He can almost get the Van Damme, not quite. A little bit short. I think it's because these pieces of the overlay may be catching inside there, preventing it from going any further. There. He can kick up about that high and kick back about that far. He does have a thigh cut, double jointed pinless knees, boot cut. Yeah, his foot can hinge all the way back. Ballerina, nice. Forward that far. Rock side to side. And he's got peg holes on the bottom. For accessories, I'll go with the knife first since it's already in his chest, or in the sheath on his chest. It's a nice black knife with a silver blade. I always like it when they paint it. It means I don't have to. And that just slides right into the sheath on his chest, which is cool. He also comes with a couple of extra head pieces. The first one is his classic look, and I say classic because this is how the figure originally came in the 80s. It came with the goggles, and he looked kind of like that. Of course, in the 80s, he also came with this white plastic helmet that made him kind of look like a bullet. So I'm glad that they didn't reuse that for this figure. So this is a pretty cool look as well. It's just as good as the non-goggles hair, but if you want to see his eyes, the goggles are attached to the hair. Unfortunately, you can't really slide them up much, so you can like put them up so you can see his eyes. But he has the goggles on; they'll just kind of fall back down again. He also has this. This replaces that little white bullet helm. It's got those yellow eye slits and some red here down on the face. And then it's like a buzzsaw effect on the top there with also some spikes. It's a really cool looking helmet. I don't think I would display him with this though, because I like I like seeing his face more. It kind of looks like a robotic samurai type helmet. Something like that. Because it's got that on the back. I don't know what that's called, but samurai helmets usually have that thing on the back there to protect the back of your neck, I guess. But for now, I'm just going to leave him with the standard head piece on, like that. He also comes with this red and black version of the Cobra laser rifle from the cartoon, and it does have a removable magazine. This is the same gun that came with the Valkyrie 2-pack, and it's designed for their hands, so it's a little bit smaller than other guns in the line for like the male figures, unfortunately. He also comes with this, which is kind of like a M203. It's got the M203 style grenade launcher on the bottom, and I guess the top part is like an M style gun, but it really isn't. It looks more like it fires lasers too, just like the other one. Also has a removable magazine, also in red and black. It's got the stock there. And this also came in the Valkyrie 2-pack, so it's also undersized. This gun also came with the Snow Serpents, and they're bigger figures. And I think he's on a similar buck as the Snow Serpents, because he looks pretty big as well. But these guns it just looks really small in his hands. Like this is supposed to be a machine gun or an assault rifle, and it doesn't look that big in his hand. See, it looks really small because it's a mold that they made for the Valkyries, and the female figures in this line have smaller hands. So they made smaller weapons to fit in their hands better, but of course that necessitated the guns, being smaller, and thus it doesn't look right with the male characters. So I don't usually use those guns for the male figures. I gave him this. This came out of a Valaverse weapons pack. I can't remember which one. But I like the idea of him having a submachine gun rather than an actual machine gun or an assault rifle. And I just think that looks really good in his hands. I think that looks like the type of gun that he would use. Someone like Metal Head. So I like I said, I think that looks really good on him. So that's the gun I display him with. Alright, last but not least, and this is going to take the longer time to go over, is his rocket pack. And this is significantly different than the one that came with the 80s figure. It's way more detail. It's got a lot more movement. The one in the 80s was just a white pack that had like a rail system that could slide up and down, but it couldn't move beyond that. This one has arms that can move any which way, and then ball pegs at the top that can move the rocket pod any which way. So you can get a lot out of this, a lot of movement out of this, and it's got hinges as well. So swivel, hinges, ball joints. This thing is really posable, and this is fantastic. I think this is an excellent upgrade to the original pack, the original rocket pack, and that really fits in there well. You can see there's got the 2 holes there as well as a peg, and then here it's got the 2 pegs as well as the hole. So you got 3 different securing locations on his back to really let it stay on tight there. He also has these. The original figure had these as well, but so now it does the classified one. These are the ones that go on his hip, and you can see they got a ball or a socket there. They just snap onto the ball peg. You don't have to worry too much about breaking this ball peg because it's kind of rubbery. It's not going to snap off like a hard piece of plastic would. So they just slide on there, and they can move a little bit, kind of, because there's a lot of friction with that ball joint, so that doesn't move very easily. But that's also good. That means it won't like slide. It won't fall down under its own power. So these can move up and down. Not as much range as these up on the top, of course, but you can't really expect them to. They're attached to those hips. And of course it comes with, each side has a hose it comes with. Let's see. I think it goes this way, yeah. So if you can get that hose into the hole is right between the 2 exhaust ports. That's another way you can tell, like if you're wondering how to tell which side is forward and which is back. This because the hole for the hose is in that side, so that's how you know this is the one that's supposed to be facing backwards. There we go. This is another part that people have complained about because it's so easy for these hoses to fall out of the holes. So even if I get them to fit here, they may not last through the rest of the rest of this video. But I'll try. Let's get that in there. Yeah, it would have been nicer if these had had a stronger, like a friction, more of a friction element to keep them in place, because they do fall out quite easily. The Techno-Viper, that's a good example of a figure where the hoses are really well designed and don't pop out very easily. I think this one's just really loose. There we go. Well, hopefully that'll at least last for the rest of the review. Alright, nothing left to do now except go over the rockets. And like I said before, there's 6 rockets. Each of them have blast effects. The first 2 are the biggest that we're going to look at, are the biggest ones. These are the ones that go into the top launchers. And one thing that some people also didn't like about this figure is the rockets, unfortunately, don't fit into the launchers, as you can see, without the blast effects on. Now, I've seen some people warm these up to the point where the fins on the back were like super soft, and then they cram them in there. But that would be the only way you'd be able to get those in there. Otherwise, you'll just have to display them with the rocket shooting out of it. And just shove those in there tight. It's a tight fit, so they're not going to fall out. One drawback to all of this gear is that it kind of throws off his balance. So you're going to have to keep him in certain positions in order to keep him from tumbling over. Or, you know, put him on a stand. That'll work too, to keep him from falling over. Alright, the final 4 rockets go into his his thigh holsters here. And I think, yeah, you can stick those in the thigh holster without needing to do anything special to them. It's just the top 2. You can't get into the holsters, but the bottom 2 can fit in there, and they're different sizes as well. Wait, these 2 are the same size. Oh, the blast effects are different sizes. I'm sorry. The rockets are all the same size, but the blast effects are slightly different. See, this one's a little bit bigger than this one. I don't think it really matters which side you put them on. I tend to put the smaller one on top and then the larger one on the bottom. But you could do it either way. For this side, I'll put the bigger one on top and the smaller one on bottom. And then the rockets go on the front. And then the hose pops out. All right. So yeah, even if you didn't have this figure in the 80s, when he first came out, it's still a really cool looking figure. And I think this one looks even better than the one that came out in the 80s. The rocket pack is definitely more posable and playable. So it looks a lot better. Again, I think he looks much better with the gun I gave him with. Now, you can give him whatever gun you want. You can keep him with the guns he came with. But for my personal tastes, I'll go with the little submachine gun I got. It looks kind of cool. It looks like the type of thing that Mars, Destro's company, would create. So it looks like the type of thing that Metalhead would use, even if it does clash with his outfit more than these do. Obviously, these go with his outfit well. But I don't care about that. This isn't a fashion show. So there's Metalhead. He came out earlier this year, just after Mutton Junkyard, I believe, whom I've already done a video of. And he's one of the cooler figures. I think he was a great example of how to make a deluxe figure to make it, you know, worth that price point. There's a lot of new stuff here with only minimal reuse, like this, compared to the Snow Serpents, which came with the wolf head and the cloak and the snowboard, and everything else was reuse. This guy just comes with these 2 things, and I think probably the knife is reuse, but I can't tell for sure because these knives all look very similar, but the rest is all new, so it looks really good. I think a lot of the tooling budget for this wave went with him, though, because he had a lot of new parts. But if Hasbro could do this more often with some of their other waves, it would look a lot better. So there you got Metalhead. Let me know down below if you picked him up or what you think about him, if you did pick him up, if you're going to pick him up. I think he's still available in a lot of places. The deluxe figures that are not army builders don't tend to sell as well. I think Mutton Junkyard is also still available, even though he's a fantastic figure, and I would urge you definitely to pick him up as well as pick this guy up. Even if you have no attachment to him, he's still a part of the G.I. Joe lore. So if you're a fan of the series, if you're a fan of the line, you want to collect everybody, right? This is a unique guy. He goes with the Iron Grenadiers. Eventually, we're gonna get Iron Grenadier Destro with his gold head and probably his despoiler. You're gonna want his officers as well as his troops. So you got him, you got Voltar, probably a Iron Grenadier version of Baroness, but then the rest of them are pretty much all troops. You don't have any other named officers. Well, Darklon also. I forgot about Darklon, but everybody else is like a troop. So you're going to want to pick him up to go with your Iron Grenadier display. I would definitely give this a thumbs up. The hoses are a little fiddly, and the fact that you can't put the top rockets into the pods is disappointing. But those two issues aside, he's a good figure. Definitely go ahead and grab him. Comment down below, like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.